a Taliban fighter edges his head above the wall. In the half-second his eyes clear the top, a 7.62 round is already traveling at 2,800 feet per second directly toward his face. He never completes the thought that sent him there. That moment has been caught on combat footage more times than the Pentagon will ever officially acknowledge. What you are about to witness are the 5 most lethal sniper reactions ever recorded, where Taliban fighters instantly regret peeking over the wall. August 2010, Sangin District, Helmand Province. 6 foreign-trained mercenary snipers operating simultaneously inside the most contested square miles in Afghanistan. Not Taliban amateurs, paid professionals. This is where our countdown begins, with the kill that defines the entire premise of this list. This isn't the fastest reaction, but it is the most architecturally precise murder ever documented in this war, and you need to understand why before anything else lands. The 9-inch gap in the bullet-resistant glass at the Sangin checkpoint was designed to give British soldiers a firing port, an advantage. The Sangin sniper studied it, measured it, and turned it into a kill corridor. Not a window, a trap. He wasn't waiting for someone to peek, he was waiting for someone to walk past the exact geometry he had already ranged. What happened next took less than 1 second. August 13th, 2010, Sangin. Darren Foster, 20 years old, British Army engineer, walks his normal route past the checkpoint glass. The sniper doesn't move. He's already ranged the gap. He knows the geometry, knows exactly when Foster's head enters the corridor. 1 round, through 9 inches of aperture, Foster is dead before anyone hears the shot. No warning crack. He isn't reacting to Foster. He's executing a solution calculated before Foster ever left his bunk. But he isn't finished. Hours later, same sniper, same operational tempo. SSGT, Michael A. Bach steps out of an armored vehicle roughly 100 meters from base. 1 shot, confirmed kill, 2 men, 1 afternoon, 0 wasted rounds. That is the operational rhythm coalition forces are now facing. And it's exactly what forces the British and American counter-sniper response that follows, unlike anything Sangin had seen before. 2 days after Foster dies through 9 inches of glass, the sniper is still hunting. August 15th, a round skips off armored steel and cracks into the Kevlar of Lance Corporal Derek Simpson, helmet ricochet, millimeters from his skull. Hours later, Corporal Caleb Lynn goes down with a leg wound, dragged to cover by Corporal Dustin St. Clair before the next round finds him. That is the moment Tekken Marsoc, Kilo Team 2, and British SF stop reacting and start hunting. Their own sniper teams deploy into Sangin's alleyways and rooftops. But the breakthrough doesn't come from optics or drones. Afghan civilians, watching, remembering, feeding grid coordinates, locate all 6 mercenary positions through close surveillance and pass them directly to special forces. 6 positions, all confirmed, all locked. Coalition forces now have something the mercenaries never expected, a target list. The coordinates go to the USAF. 2 F-16s roll in low over Sangin, JDAMs already armed. 6 mercenary positions, 6 confirmed grids. The strikes hit simultaneously. Buildings sheltering trained killers for weeks collapsed in seconds, dust columns rising over Sangin's rooftops like graves marking themselves. The math afterward is brutal. Before August 13th, coalition forces in Sangin absorbed multiple sniper casualties daily. After the strikes, 0 confirmed Sangin sniper events from that cell. 1 9-inch gap in bullet-resistant glass triggered a chain reaction that ended 6 foreign-trained mercenaries and rewrote the defensive posture of every forward operating base in Helmand. That is the final payoff of the 9-inch kill. But Sangin was a static battlefield. What happens when snipers must react inside a moving ambush in terrain that funnels entire units into a kill zone with no cover? November 12, 2010, Kunar Province, eastern Afghanistan. The valley floor is barely wide enough for a convoy. On both sides, ridge lines climb thousands of feet, sheer and broken, every crack and boulder shelf a natural firing position already ranged by Taliban spotters before dawn. This is Kunar Valley, and the geography itself is the weapon. Taliban machine gun teams had pre-zeroed their weapons on every approach route days earlier. Spotters in caves radioed movement the moment coalition forces entered the valley mouth. Their doctrine was simple and brutal: stay concealed, expose for 2 seconds, fire, disappear behind rock. Peek and fire, repeat until the convoy is bleeding. What they hadn't counted on was Army Ranger sniper teams already positioned on the opposite ridgeline, watching every fold in that mountain before a single shot was fired. And one of them just saw something move. 2 sequential flashes. That is what Ranger Sniper Sergeant First Class Eric Geis saw through his Schmidt and Bender scope at 0714 hours, November 12, 2010. Sunlight catching metal on the ridgeline above the valley floor. Not once, twice, same position, seconds apart. An AK barrel. Or an RPG tube. Either way, a spotter settling into position. Geis didn't wait for confirmation. He keyed his radio and called the grid precise 8-digit coordinates to the Ranger element moving below. The ambush hadn't opened yet. Not a single shot had been fired from either side. But the kill clock was already running because the sniper had seen what the Taliban thought was invisible. That is the reaction window the Taliban never knew existed. Now the fighters start moving between the boulders and the Rangers start shooting. The ambush is fully open now. Taliban fighters sprint in short bursts, boulder to boulder, working down the ridgeline to bracket the Ranger element below. Each exposure window is 2 seconds, maybe 3. At 1,000 yards, 2 seconds is almost nothing. For Sergeant First Class Geis and his team, it is enough. The mechanics are brutal in their simplicity. A fighter breaks cover, the crosshair is already there, pre-positioned on the gap between rocks. One deliberate trigger press, the figure drops, rolls, disappears down the slope. The next fighter watches it happen and still breaks cover anyway because staying pinned means the valley closes around them. One position after another. On the valley floor, Ranger ground troops see only bodies rolling off the ridgeline. No muzzle flash, no locatable sound, nothing to shoot back at. That is the geometry of elevation used as a weapon. Taliban reinforcements push along the upper ridgeline, trying to flank, moving fast between the rocks, believing the height advantage belongs to them. Sergeant First Class Geis's teams had already been calling positions. Every exposure, every muzzle flash logged and fed directly to the tactical air control party below. Coordinates built from sniper observation, not sensor feed, not satellite. Human eyes at elevation calling grids in real time. Aircraft arrive overhead. The flanking column never reaches its objective. Result: 14 confirmed Taliban killed. The ambush collapses within minutes of the airstrike. The valley goes quiet. That is Kunar Valley. Angels, sniper precision feeding air power, each multiplying the other until there is nothing left to fight. But Kunar was mountain terrain, wide open ridge lines. What happens when the same sniper calculus compresses into 200 meters of urban rooftop? Ramadi, 2006. Kunar gave snipers ridgelines and 1,000 yards of open slope. Ramadi gave them rooftops, alleyways, and 200 meters of compressed concrete, where every window was a firing position and every parapet a potential coffin lid. Coalition snipers and insurgent marksmen fought a parallel war above street level. Neither side owned the rooftops. They contested them block by block, hour by hour. The insurgent tactic mirrored Sangin's 9-inch gap, minimize exposure, compress the reaction window to fractions of a second, make the margin too small to exploit. Parapet edges became the kill line. Rise above it, you're visible. Stay below it, you're blind. Corporal Nicholas Irons, USMC, understood exactly how that equation worked, and he was already watching one specific rooftop before the insurgent made his decision. Irons had not been watching that rooftop for seconds. He had been watching it for minutes. The AAR documents what brought his rifle there before the insurgent's head ever cleared the parapet. Dust disturbance along the rooftop edge. A shadow shift behind the concrete lip. Body weight transfer visible through cracks in the masonry as a man prepares to rise. Irons read every indicator and pre-positioned his crosshairs on the exact kill line, the top edge of the parapet, and held. 2 seconds was the exposure window the AAR recorded. Most shooters need that long just to acquire. Irons already had his respiratory pause, his trigger staged, his point of aim fixed where a head would appear. When the insurgent rose, the rifle was already waiting. That is the preposition. What happened next was a single trigger press, and it changes everything. One round left the barrel. The insurgent's head clears the parapet and stops there. He doesn't drop slowly. He doesn't grab a wall. One round from Corporal Nicholas Irons' rifle and the body simply folds, collapsing back behind the roofline in a single uninterrupted motion. No second shot. What happens next is what the Ramadi AAR records with unusual specificity. Adjacent rooftop positions, 2 confirmed insurgent observation posts flanking the killed fighter's building, go completely silent. One visible elimination and an entire block holds its breath. One round, total suppression radiating outward from a single point of impact. But the real measure of what Irons did that morning isn't the kill itself. It's what that single round cost the enemy in time, manpower, and momentum. That math comes next. One round, 1 confirmed kill, 2 observation posts silent for hours afterward. The Ramadi AAR logged the suppression window at roughly 4 hours before insurgent movement resumed. 4 hours of tactical paralysis from a single 38 round, no follow-up fire, no medevac compromise, no friendly casualties during that window. In the broader 2006 Ramadi sniper campaign, USMC teams documented a consistent pattern, single precision kills generating sector-wide suppression averaging 3 to 5 hours. Irons shot tracked exactly inside that envelope. 1 round, 4 hours of enemy inaction. That is the suppression math. Speed to effect ratio against other entries in this countdown, near instant acquisition, sub 2-second reaction, 4-hour tactical payoff. But Irons had one advantage. He knew where to look. What happens when 2 world-class snipers hunt each other through the same jungle, neither knowing the other's position, and the only exposure window is a single glint off a scope lens at 500 yards? February 1967, Quang Tri Province. Gunnery Sergeant Carlos Hathcock, call sign White Feather, 93 confirmed kills, Marine Scout, Sniper, 1st Marine Division. The North Vietnamese Army had placed a bounty on his head, $500, a fortune in that war. They didn't send infantry. They sent their own sniper. Operators called him Cobra. Both men knew the other was in the same jungle sector. Both were belly crawling through triple canopy terrain, moving inches at a time, reading pressure, reading shadow. Days passed, no shot fired. Because the first man to expose himself, even for a fraction of a second, dies. That is the duel, and it ends in one impossible instant. Hathcock has been belly crawling for days. No food, no sleep worth calling sleep. Every inch of ground measured against the possibility of death. Then it happens. A fraction of a second, sunlight catches glass. 500 yards deep in the jungle canopy, Cobra's scope lens rotates into perfect alignment with the sun and throws a single pinpoint glint directly back at Hathcock's position. That glint is the peak, not a head or a shoulder, just reflected light lasting less than 1 heartbeat. Hathcock fires once. The round travels 500 yards, enters Cobra's scope tube, and punches through the glass. Cobra never pulled his trigger. He had Hathcock dead in his crosshairs, and he still lost. That is the kill. But what makes this something beyond a confirmed kill? The physics that single shot required are almost impossible to believe. Think about the physics. Really think about it. For Hathcock's round to travel through Cobra's scope tube, both rifles had to be pointing at each other with near surgical precision. The scope tube is roughly an inch in diameter. At 500 yards, the margin for error is a fraction of that inch, which means the moment Hathcock squeezed his trigger, Cobra's crosshairs were locked directly onto his face. He was already dead before his brain registered the round. Marines recovered Cobra's rifle afterward. The bullet's path was confirmed. Entry through the objective lens, straight through the internal glass, out the rear. One clean channel. The geometry doesn't lie. Both men had each other. One fired first. That fraction of a second separates 93 confirmed kills from a grave marker in Quang Tri. But this shot didn't just close Cobra's file. What it opened would outlast the war entirely. USMC Quantico confirmed the shot through formal record review. The recovered rifle, the geometry, the single clean channel through Cobra's scope, all entered official documentation. Within years, Senate Armed Services Committee testimony on sniper program funding cited Hathcock's engagement specifically, not as legend, but as measurable proof that reaction speed beats a peer-level threat when the shooter has already pre-solved the equation. Every U.S. military sniper school curriculum that followed built a module around it. Not the mythology, the mechanics. Scope glint identification, pre-alignment, kill geometry. The fraction of a second window where a target's own aiming process makes him visible and vulnerable simultaneously. But records get challenged. The next entry takes everything Hathcock proved in Jungle Shadow and puts it on camera. Afghanistan. A compound wall, mud brick, chest high to a standing man, baking white in flat midday light. The DoD-released combat camera footage shows a single fixed frame. The wall stretches left to right. Behind it, nothing moves. The coalition sniper's position is already locked. No visible barrel shift, no adjustment. The distance puts the wall between 60 and 100 meters out. Close enough that every detail resolves clean. Far enough that the fighter on the other side believed he had a workable angle. Then his head rises above the wall line. Shoulders follow. He is acquiring, not yet at full exposure when the frame changes. The reaction window is already closing. The footage is about to prove exactly how fast. Frame by frame, the footage doesn't lie. The fighter's head clears the wall line. His shoulders rise. His hands are moving, acquiring, not observing. The entire exposure, from the moment his head breaks the wall to the frame where everything stops, measures under 1 second. Some analysts have clocked it closer to half that, half a second. That is the exposure window, the smallest measurable gap on this entire countdown, caught on camera, verifiable in real time. But that reaction speed wasn't instinct, it was preparation. And what the fighter believed that wall could do for him is the critical mistake nobody has explained yet. The fighter wasn't being reckless. He was following a logic that had kept Taliban fighters alive across 100 compounds before this one. The wall was chest high, thick mud brick, the kind that stops rifle rounds cold. A quick rise, head up, acquire the coalition position, drop back, standard operating procedure. Fast enough to observe, brief enough to survive. He was wrong about one thing. The sniper wasn't reacting to him. The sniper had already mapped that wall. Every compound in the sector had been studied. Corner angles, height, the sight lines a defender naturally gravitates toward. That corner was the logical observation point. The scope was already there before the fighter decided to move. The wall didn't fail him. His assumption did. He thought he was choosing the moment. The sniper had already chosen it for him. That is preparation, disguised as reaction speed, and what the camera captures next is the proof. The round doesn't make a sound on the footage. One frame he's there, head and shoulders above the mud brick, eyes searching, and the next frame he's gone. No dramatic fall, no warning, just absence where a man used to be. That is the #1 slot. Frame by frame, this exposure window measures under 1 second. Hathcock fired through a reflected glint. The Ramadi shooter had a 2-second parapet rise. Sangin's gap was 9 inches of glass. Kunar gave seconds between boulders. This wall gave less than all of them. What the footage proves isn't reflexes. It proves the doctrine. Pre-identification beats reaction every time. The sniper didn't respond to the fighter. He was already inside the fighter's decision before it was made. That is modern sniper doctrine reduced to a single frame of combat camera. Drop a comment right now. Does the sniper win the day? Or does the moment Furlong missed his first 2 shots at 2,430 meters tell you everything about how thin that margin really is? Like and subscribe if you believe the wall always loses. The hunter becomes the hunted every single time.